At our engagement party, my fiancé's best friends dared her to put me in my place before the wedding. So, surrounded by our friends and family, she raised her glass and suddenly announced to everyone, "When you can't marry the one you want, it doesn't matter who you marry." A ripple of awkward laughter and shocked whispers filled the room, and in that instant, I became a citywide joke. But I felt no anger, no surge of humiliation. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. In fact, I moved through the crowd with a serene smile, handing out wedding invitations to every guest I saw. I knew, with an unnerving certainty, that someone was going to crash our wedding and take me away. And the most ironic part was that the person who would do it was one of the very friends who had just put my fiancé up to this public spectacle. I found Clara a little later, tucked away in a private lounge with her 3 closest friends. Their voices carried through the slightly ajar door, and I paused to listen. "Clara, you really pulled it off," one of them said, her voice dripping with admiration. "That line about not marrying the one you want. You've got your fiancé completely wrapped around your finger now." Another chimed in, laughing. "The look on Leo's face, he went totally pale." Clara laughed along with them, a sound that felt hollow to my ears. "It was you 3 who came up with the idea," she said. "You insisted I had to make a power move before the wedding." The first voice, which I now recognized as Isabel's, adopted a conspiratorial tone. "We're just looking out for you, girl. Don't want you getting tied down after you're married." The others murmured in agreement. "Exactly. Leo's cute, but that's all he's got going for him. He's so average. If you don't teach him a lesson now, he'll be walking all over you later." Clara seemed to absorb every word of their poisonous advice, even raising her glass to toast them. "Thanks to you guys. Leo does whatever I say now." I chose that moment to push the door open, interrupting their celebration. "What are we talking about?" I asked, a pleasant smile fixed on my face as my gaze swept over the surprised faces of Clara's 3 friends. Clara's tone turned a little cold. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Delivering invitations to these 3, I said gently. As soon as the words left my mouth, I saw their expressions stiffen, a subtle shift that I pretended not to notice. I pulled the pristine invitations from my briefcase with a cheerful grin. "You're Clara's best friends. You have to be there to celebrate with us." Inside each invitation was a romantic photo of Clara and me from our engagement shoot. Each of them stared down at it, their faces unreadable masks. "Also, about the music for the wedding?" I turned to consult Clara, but she was already growing impatient. "You decide." I feigned surprise. "Really? Then I'll just use my favorite band for everything, honey." Clara froze, her eyes narrowing. "What did you call me?" I beamed at her. "Honey, we're engaged now, so I can start calling you that, right?" My smile was warm, my eyes filled with a manufactured anticipation for our wedding. "And one more thing," I added. "I want to thank you." She looked suspicious. "Thank me for what?" I continued smoothly. "For giving me so much freedom with the wedding planning. I'm so happy that I'll be walking down the aisle with you." A faint blush appeared on Clara's cheeks, visible even in the dim light of the lounge. "All right, I'll head out. Don't want to interrupt your get-together. Enjoy your last days of being single, honey." I left the private room with a spring in my step, leaving Clara lost in thought over my new term of endearment. She was so distracted that she didn't notice the 3 complicated, calculating stares that followed me out the door. Clara's inner circle consisted of 3 women: Maya Vance, an F1 race car driver, Serafina Cruz, a famous pop star, and Isabel Thorne, a renowned artist. Each came from a distinguished and wealthy family, and each was stunningly beautiful. They were right, in a way. How could an ordinary guy like me, from a middle-class background, even dream of marrying someone like Clara? After closing the door to the lounge, I didn't go far. I waited in a nearby alcove until they eventually left. Once the coast was clear, I walked over to the trash can near the lounge's entrance and saw a freshly discarded photo. It was the engagement picture from one of the invitations, but it had been savaged. Only Clara's half had been violently torn off, her smiling face on the paper crumpled and creased as if squeezed in a fist. But they didn't know my secret. I had designed 3 unique invitations, each with a slightly different photograph. Just from the specific pose in the torn section, I could tell exactly who had thrown it away. Serafina Cruz. Oh, Serafina, I murmured to myself. I looked up. On the giant digital screen of the mall across the street, Serafina's new commercial was playing on a loop. Her flawless makeup, her gorgeous features, her manufactured charisma. Could she be the one? Could she be the one to crash the wedding? It had all started last week. On the eve of our engagement, I had a strange, hyper-realistic dream. I dreamed that the world I lived in was nothing more than a novel, and I was just a character in it. In the dream, I saw our engagement party unfold, and I heard Clara say those exact same disrespectful words. I also dreamed that despite the public humiliation, I would grit my teeth and marry her out of some misguided loyalty to our shared past. But at the wedding, the ceremony would be interrupted. Someone, their face obscured by a mask and a hat, would crash the event, grab my hand, and ask me again and again if I wanted to go with her. In the dream, I refused. I chose to stay and become Clara's husband. But from that moment on, a deep, unbridgeable rift grew between us. She became convinced that I had staged the whole thing just to teach her a lesson. No matter how much I explained or pleaded, she wouldn't listen. Later, Clara's first love returned from abroad, and she finally had her chance to be with the story's true male lead. As for me, the side character, my role was over. I died of a sudden heart attack, the doctors said, brought on by deep, prolonged depression. The dream ended abruptly there. I snapped my eyes open, drenched in a cold sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs. It felt so real, so visceral. I could still feel the stifling atmosphere of the wedding from the dream, as if the events were still happening right in front of me. I tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a bizarre nightmare, a manifestation of pre-wedding anxiety. But at the engagement party the next day, Clara repeated that sentence from my dream, word for word. The whole room erupted, and my mind went completely blank. That's when I finally understood. I wasn't the hero of my own life. I was just a supporting character, a plot device whose early death was necessary to push the main character's relationship forward. The wedding crashing was just a tool to make Clara despise me, to justify her leaving me for the story's hero. But the person who crashed the wedding, there was a familiar feeling about her. Even though I couldn't see her face clearly in the dream, I knew she had to be one of Clara's 3 most trusted friends. Who was it? The answer, I suspected, might be right in front of me. As I stood staring at the crumpled photo in the trash can, I heard hurried footsteps approaching from behind me. I turned around and came face to face with Serafina Cruz's panicked expression. "Leo," she stammered, "why are you still here?" Her eyes then darted to the photo in my hand. She froze, completely mortified, caught red-handed. I held it up. "What's this about? Serafina's mind worked fast, the A-list star accustomed to thinking on her feet. "I guess Maya or Isabel must have thrown it away," she said, trying to look calm and collected. "Are you sure?" I asked quietly. The pop star nodded, her composure strained. But she didn't know that the photo in every invitation was different. "Serafina, why are you lying?" The tips of her ears turned a bright, telltale red, but she remained stubborn. "Fine, I threw it away." "So what? Clara's my best friend and I don't think you deserve her." I didn't argue the point. Instead, I changed the subject, catching her off guard. "So, what did you think of my picture in the photo?" "You looked handsome," Serafina blurted out, completely forgetting that she had just been insulting me. She immediately bit her lip in regret, and now her entire neck was flushed a brilliant shade of crimson. "I mean, the photo's atmosphere was nice," she backpedaled frantically. "I definitely didn't mean you were handsome. You know, I'm in the entertainment industry. I've seen every kind of handsome guy there is. In my opinion, you're just... okay. At best, like a B-list actor. No, C-list. A total nobody." She was tripping over her own words, a tangled mess of denial. I didn't call her out on it, just let her fluster herself into silence. When she finally ran out of steam, I spoke again, my voice soft. "By the way, Serafina, do you know what our wedding theme song is?" She looked confused. "What is it?" I told her, "The lead single from your last album." Then I raised an eyebrow at her stunned, speechless face and added, "And I picked it out myself." That particular song's lyrics, penned by Serafina herself, were about the deep, secret pain of loving a man she couldn't have. When it was released, it had shot to the top of all the music charts, with fans endlessly speculating whether the song was about her own personal experience. Because of the open disdain Serafina always showed me, I had never once thought the song could be about me. Now, watching her reaction, I felt I had my answer. The A-list celebrity who could command any stage with unshakable confidence was now acting like a teenager whose crush had just been exposed. Her face and neck were flushed, and she stammered, trying to explain something, but her words were just a jumbled, incoherent mess. Eventually, as a passerby was about to recognize her, I gave a small nod and left her there, utterly flustered. I had thought Serafina had to be the one, the person who would crash the wedding, but I never expected what would happen next. A week later, I received an anonymous portrait. The message attached was simple and direct. "Don't marry Clara." The package had just appeared at my front door, left in a perfect blind spot for the building's security cameras. There was no tracking number, no return address, no way to trace its source. The groom in the painting was me, impeccably dressed in a wedding suit, but the bride on my arm wasn't Clara. The artist had deliberately blurred the bride's face, making it impossible to see her features clearly. But I was sure of one thing. This wasn't from Serafina. Serafina couldn't draw a straight line to save her life. So who could it be? For the next few days, the pattern continued. Every morning, a new drawing and a fresh flower glistening with morning dew appeared at my doorstep. The attached card always had a tender, handwritten confession. After a week of this, I was ready. This morning, I watched from my window as a woman stealthily avoided the cameras and placed today's flower and drawing at my door. Just as she was about to turn and leave, I opened the door and called out from behind her. "Isabel, fancy seeing you here." The woman froze. She didn't dare look up, trying desperately to hide her face behind her hat and mask. The baseball cap and black surgical mask she wore were strikingly similar to what the wedding crasher in my dream had on. "Why so quiet?" I walked toward her with a gentle smile. "Want to come in for a glass of water before you go?" Her voice was muffled by the mask. You've got the wrong person." I chuckled. "No, I don't. Isabel, I'd recognize you even if you were wrapped up like a mummy." I leaned in slightly. "Why? Because you're special." My vague, suggestive words made Isabel misunderstand my meaning. She nervously took off her mask, revealing her elegant, artistic face. Of Clara's 4 friends, Isabel was the one with the most refined, artistic temperament. She was born into a family of renowned artists and had been immersed in that world since she was a child. "When did you know it was me?" Isabel asked, her voice a whisper. "Just now," I lied. In truth, I'd had a hunch it was her from the very first day. Isabel was a famous collector and curator, but few people knew that she could also paint with incredible skill. As far as I knew, she was the only one of the group who possessed that talent. Clara had let that detail slip once when she was drunk. "What's with all the cards and paintings?" I asked, feigning confusion. "Have you had a secret crush on me this whole time?" Isabel immediately denied it, a little too quickly. "Of course not." But her eyes darted away, her guilt all too obvious. I let out a relieved laugh. "I knew it. Your family has such a distinguished background. There's no way you'd be interested in a guy with a normal background like me." Isabel could only nod along, trapped by my logic. "Then why did you send me all this stuff?" The conversation circled back to the beginning, and Isabel was cornered. She had to force herself to come up with an excuse. "I was just testing you for Clara." I raised an eyebrow. "Why test me?" Her eyes flickered around. "Because you're very good at charming people." I was genuinely baffled. "What?" Isabel pressed on, her confidence returning. "I'll just be honest, Leo. Since you've decided to marry Clara, you should tone it down a bit. Stop trying to charm me." I was stunned into silence for a moment. "Wait, when did I ever try to charm you?" she said, now sounding self-righteous. "Every time you see me, you look at me with that look in your eyes, and you stare for so long. You're doing it right now. I know you have nice eyes, but stop looking at me. I won't be bewitched by you." I pointed to the stack of paintings in her arms. "Then what's the point of these? You don't need to paint pictures just to test me." Isabel's tone became as arrogant as ever. "I admit you look a little handsome in a suit, but just a little. I have an urge to document beautiful things. Don't read too much into it." I nodded emphatically, as if accepting her ridiculous explanation. "If that's how it is, fine. From now on, I'll watch what I say and do, and I'll stay far away from you." Isabel was taken aback. "Wait, that's not what I meant." Before she could finish her sentence, I went inside, gathered up all the drawings and flowers she had given me over the past week, and shoved them all back into her arms. "From now on, we'll act like we don't know each other." With a loud slam, I shut the door in her face, leaving a stunned Isabel standing on my doorstep, holding a week's worth of her secret affections, completely at a loss. So far, both Serafina and Isabel were potential wedding crashers, and my fiancée, Clara, had no idea about any of their secret schemes. Things were getting more and more interesting. I went to find Clara later that week. She was at the racetrack with her 3 friends. The track belonged to Maya Vance, the professional driver who spent most of her time competing abroad. Whenever she was back in the country, she would invite the girls to her private track to let off some steam. It was Clara's favorite pastime. She wasn't happy to see me arrive unannounced, especially since there was a handsome man sitting in her passenger seat. I walked up to the car. "Who's he?" I asked. A driving partner, she replied dismissively. Don't lie to me. You don't need a professional partner for this kind of track experience. Clara tapped her long fingers impatiently on the steering wheel. The race is more fun with a cute guy in the passenger seat, Leo. We're not officially married yet, so don't be so controlling. With that, she stomped on the gas pedal, and the car shot off like a bolt of lightning. Clara was the first to cross the finish line, and the man in her passenger seat threw his arms up in excitement. When she turned the car around and drove back to the pit, she saw that I was still there, waiting. Leo, don't you trust me? She sighed. He's just a driving partner. We're not doing anything. Can you stop watching me so closely? I ignored her question. I just came to ask if we should add more tables for the reception. The guest list is over capacity. She scoffed. Then add them. Why do you have to ask me about something so small? She swung her long legs out of the car and tilted her head back to chug a bottle of water. Then she added, her voice laced with disdain. I can afford to invite as many people as I want. You should really work on that cheap attitude of yours. That was the final straw. I shot to my feet. Clara, are you regretting getting engaged to me? Clara was stunned. She hadn't expected me to get genuinely angry, especially not in front of so many people. She was losing face. Leo, do you know what people are saying about me? They're saying I'm an idiot for marrying a man who can do absolutely nothing for my career. If it weren't for the fact that you're obedient and handsome, why else would I have chosen you? My voice was cold. If you won't marry me, someone else will. As I said it, my eyes flicked to the side. Serafina and Isabel were both secretly looking at me, their expressions a mixture of hope and excitement. So was Maya. But she only glanced at me for a split second before looking away, her eyes lowered as if she didn't know me at all. When it came to crashing the wedding, Maya was the first person I had ruled out. She was different from the others. While Serafina, Isabel, and Clara were debating which male celebrity had the best body, Maya was tinkering with race cars. While the other three were lost in a haze of lavish parties and luxury shopping, Maya was still tinkering with race cars. There seemed to be nothing in her eyes but cars. She was cold and distant with most people, only hanging out with Clara and the others because their parents were business acquaintances. Maya rarely spoke. Most of the time, she was just a silent observer. Clara once told me that a single F1 car costs tens of millions of dollars, and Maya had a garage full of them. I had barely exchanged more than a few words with the enigmatic race car driver, so from the very beginning, I had ruled her out as a suspect. Today, I had deliberately started a fight with Clara just to see how Serafina and Isabel would react. The undisguised eagerness in their eyes was almost impossible to hide. That night, Clara came to me to apologize. She said she was just having some pre-wedding jitters, and that I shouldn't take her words to heart. After she fell asleep, I quietly went through her phone. In their 4-person group chat, the conversation from that afternoon was revealing. Clara: Girls, I think I went a little too far today. Serafina: Too far how? Clara: I shouldn't have talked to Leo like that. Isabel: A woman who goes soft will just get controlled by her man later. Serafina: Didn't we tell you before? Countless women get married and their husbands control their every move. They never have any fun again. Did you forget all that? Clara: But my intention was just to put him in his place, so he'd listen to me at home, not to actually drive him away. Isabel: What about Julian? Julian was the original male lead in the novel I'd dreamed about. He was also Clara's first love, a memory buried deep in her heart. Clara: Julian and I? That's impossible now. Leo is the best choice for me at this point. Isabel. Why? Even if Julian doesn't come back, you could find someone from a similar background. Clara. But only Leo has a personality like his, especially when he's angry. So that was it. No wonder Clara had taken the initiative to apologize to me today. The angrier I got, the more I resembled the male lead from her past. Even though I already knew all of this from the dream, seeing Clara admit it herself, in her own words, sent a dull, persistent ache through my heart. I suddenly found myself looking forward to the wedding and to the person who would come to crash it. The rumors about me were spreading like wildfire. Everyone said I was hopelessly in love with Clara. She had publicly humiliated me, yet I was still dead set on marrying her. Some people whispered that it was all for the allure of her family's money. I ignored all of it. Soon, it was the wedding day. This time, I had made a suggestion that we have the ceremony first and get the marriage license later. Clara, not thinking much of it, readily agreed. But to my surprise, Serafina, Isabel, and Maya all declined my request to be bridesmaids, each offering a different, flimsy reason. During the ring exchange, the grand venue was suddenly plunged into darkness. The lights were out. A staff member hurriedly explained that they were working on fixing a technical issue. Clara muttered unhappily beside me, "How could something this major go wrong?" Just as she finished speaking, a woman in a black mask and a baseball cap rushed to the center of the stage. She grabbed my hand, her grip firm, and asked in a clear voice, "Leo, will you come with me?" The officiant was dumbfounded. The guests had never seen anything like it. Someone in the crowd screamed, "Someone's crashing the wedding!" And the room erupted into chaos. My heart was pounding in my chest. Everything from my dream was happening right on schedule. I stared at the woman in black in front of me, silent for a long moment. But just then, something unexpected happened. Clara suddenly grabbed my other hand, her grip desperate. "Leo, don't go with her." This was a scene that hadn't been in my dream. In the dream, Clara had coldly watched me refuse the stranger, coldly gone through the rest of the ceremony, and then, after we were off stage, coldly asked me, "Was that an actress you hired?" But now she was holding on to me, her expression tense and pleading. "Leo, you won't go with her, right? I know you won't go with her. Please, Leo." Why was Clara acting so differently from the dream? Could it be that she had seen the whole story too? And if so, did she know who the wedding crasher was? I looked up and stared at the woman in front of me. At that exact moment, I felt a strange, distinct sensation in my left palm where she held my hand. Calluses. I understood in a flash. Only one person I knew would have calluses like these on her hands. Only someone who spends all their time with their hands gripping a steering wheel would develop calluses like that. No matter what, I never would have thought it would be her. According to my original plan, I was supposed to rip off this person's mask and hat at this very moment to expose her ugly desire for her best friend's fiancé to the entire world. But on a strange, powerful impulse, I shook off Clara's hand. I gripped the calloused hand of the woman in black, pulled her with me, and ran. We ran toward the magnificent doors that symbolized the beginning of a marriage. Run out, just run out. As long as I got out of this building, I could escape my predetermined fate. The bright light from outside stung my eyes, but I had never felt so exhilarated. The woman's car, a sleek sports car, was parked right at the hotel entrance, ready for a quick getaway. But right now, the street was gridlocked with a massive traffic jam. Clara's family and security were about to chase after us. The woman made a split-second decision. "Get in. I'll figure something out." I knew she was an amazing driver, a professional. But if she started weaving through traffic and cutting people off, she could lose her license. Her entire career would be ruined. Luckily, I had come prepared. I rolled out a powerful motorcycle I had hidden by the entrance, tilted my head, and threw her own words back at her. "Get on!" She didn't hesitate, immediately swinging her leg over and settling behind me. I hit the gas, and amid the shocked cries and angry curses of Clara's family, we sped away. I was a good motorcycle rider. In fact, before I met Clara, I loved nothing more than riding my bike out to empty highways and racing. But Clara had said she liked her men to be gentle and stable, so I had given up the hobby for her. Now, as I sped out of the city center, the late summer wind whipping past my face, I suddenly burst out laughing. To hell with gentle, stable, and obedient. I laughed like a triumphant demon. Finally, free. I had prepared a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. During the 3 months I was supposedly planning the wedding, I was also meticulously planning my own escape route. I parked the motorcycle in front of a small, unassuming apartment building. "Want to come up for a bit?" I asked the woman on the back of the bike. Her voice was muffled by her mask. "What's your plan now?" I turned to her, amused. "You're the one who crashed the wedding, and you're asking me what my plan is?" She said, "I crashed the wedding, yes, because I didn't want you to be unhappy in the future. But you are free." I was stunned. "What did you say?" She repeated her words, her voice low and steady. "You are free. Crashing the wedding. It was to set you free." I had considered countless possibilities. That she had crashed the wedding so we could be together, or maybe just to make Clara miserable. But I never imagined this. She just wanted me to be free. The woman, who seemed so clumsy when it came to expressing emotions, waved a hand dismissively. "Just keep your eyes open next time. Don't get involved with women like that again." I reached out and stopped her as she turned to leave. "Wait," I said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "You don't like me?" She answered so frankly it caught me completely off guard. "Of course I like you." I was bewildered. "Then why are you playing the magnanimous hero, Maya?" Maya froze. "You recognized me?" I smiled. It's hard not to. She was at a loss for a moment. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your wedding, but Clara really isn't the right person for you. I tried to warn you, but you didn't seem to notice, so I had to resort to this." I held up a hand. "Stop, stop!" I interrupted Maya's earnest explanation. "Didn't you see the motorcycle I had ready? Even if you hadn't come, I was going to run." Maya slowly took off her mask and hat. It was no wonder I had ruled her out first. She really didn't seem like the type to orchestrate something as dramatic as a wedding crash. She had a cool, almost fierce look about her, an intensity that was usually reserved for the racetrack. "You said you warned me. When?" I invited her upstairs and poured her a glass of water. She sat up straight on the sofa and answered, "I mentioned Julian, Clara's ex, in front of you." I thought back, and vaguely remembered something like that. Maya was usually very quiet. One day she had uncharacteristically started a conversation about Clara and her ex-boyfriend. But at the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. Who doesn't have an ex? No matter how great their past relationship was, it was in the past. So I had completely missed the subtext in Maya's words. Besides, when Clara and I first started dating, she was very forward, very devoted, and let me look at her phone whenever I wanted. I never even considered being suspicious of her. Thinking back now, Clara's devotion at the time was probably just an overcompensation, a product of her guilt over not being able to forget Julian. "Thank you, Maya," I said sincerely. "For what?" she asked. "Even though I didn't get your hint, you tried your best to help me." She shrugged. "Don't mention it. It was the right thing to do." When her eyes met mine, She looked away, a flicker of embarrassment in her expression, but as she turned her head, she saw my shirt hanging on the balcony to dry. Maya's face instantly turned red. She quickly looked away, nervously clutching her glass of water. My God, who would have thought? She had a face that could intimidate anyone, a career that was all about aggression and speed, but her personality was so surprisingly innocent. "I'll go explain things to Clara," Maya said, standing up. "It's all on me. You don't have to worry. If they ask, you can just put all the blame on me." I recalled the original plot of the dream. In the book, I didn't go with her, and I didn't expose her identity. Maya left the country the very next day and didn't return until the very end of the story. Her part was so small, as if she were just a background character designed to make the main heroine's social circle seem more impressive. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Why do you like me? We barely even know each other." Maya looked down at her hands. "We met a long time ago. It's just that you didn't notice me that day. Maya and I first met 2 years ago. That day, someone had challenged her to an illegal street race on the coastal highway. The road had been cleared in advance by the organizers, so there was no real danger of accidents. But when Maya arrived, she found out her opponent wasn't in a car. It was a motorcycle, and the rider was a man. Before the race, people were warning him, "Leo, your opponent today is a professional. Just take it easy." But the rider wasn't concerned. So what if she's a professional? It doesn't mean I'll lose. Hearing this, Maya glanced at him curiously. The guy had a brilliant, confident smile as he swung his leg over the seat and put on his helmet. The afternoon sunlight poured over him, making him seem to glow. During the race, Maya found herself distracted, a rare occurrence for her. In her peripheral vision, she kept catching glimpses of his sleek figure and his agile, daring movements on the bike. Maya was a very slow person to warm up to others. She had never had feelings for anyone before. At the time, she didn't understand what this strange distraction meant. It wasn't until she got home that night and couldn't sleep, the image of that guy racing like the wind filling her mind every time she closed her eyes, that she realized something was wrong with her. After several sleepless nights, she asked a friend to do some digging and found out his name was Leo Diaz. She got his number, but couldn't bring herself to add him as a contact. She rarely talked to guys. What would she even say to him? She practiced her opening line over and over, but on the very day she finally felt ready, Clara introduced her new boyfriend to their group of friends. "Maya, this is my boyfriend, Leo." Maya said nothing. She silently watched her best friend and the boy she was crushing on holding hands. No one knew that in her mind, she was silently reciting the words she had practiced for days. "Hi, I'm Maya Vance. I'm the race car driver you competed against the other day." Maya had a very strict, traditional upbringing. A friend's boyfriend wasn't a stranger, but he might as well have been. In other words, she had to maintain boundaries and distance, and Maya did exactly that. I remembered a time I went to meet Clara at an auto body shop. It was only when I got there that I learned the shop was one of Maya's investments. She was sitting on the floor, silently tinkering with car parts. I sat on a chair nearby, waiting for Clara. There were at least 10 feet of empty space between us. From beginning to end, we only exchanged 3 short sentences. "Hi, I'm here to see Clara." "She's not here yet. Make yourself comfortable." "Okay, thanks." And then, nothing. Maya didn't even look up at me. It was from that day on that I had always assumed Maya hated me. Thinking back on it now, how much restraint and hidden feeling was concealed in her silence. I'll never know. When we were done talking, Maya got up to leave. As I walked her to the door, I couldn't help but ask one more question. Maya. She turned. Yeah? I had to know. That afternoon at your shop, what were you really thinking? Maya was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. Then she looked at me, her eyes clear and honest. I was thinking that betraying my best friend and abandoning my morals didn't seem so hard after all. The story of the wedding crashing spread through our social circle like wildfire. Someone had even recorded a video of our escape and posted it online. Clara and I became the topic of everyone's gossip. But strangely enough, Clara never came to confront me. I had kept her contact information, expecting an angry call or a barrage of texts. I thought she would demand to know why I had left her at the altar. But she didn't. She was unnervingly calm, completely silent. But that was fine with me. Maybe Clara had finally realized that the only person she truly loved was Julian. Of course, I had no plans to leave the city. My job was here. My life was here. Why should I be the one to run away? After half a month of peace and quiet, I was meeting a friend for dinner after work. As soon as I walked into the restaurant, I saw two familiar figures seated at a table near the entrance. It was Serafina and Isabel. They were thrilled to see me, their faces lighting up as I approached. "Leo, I can't believe we ran into you here," Serafina chirped. Isabel added, "Where did you move to? Even if you broke up with Clara, you didn't have to block us." I stopped by their table. "Do you need something? If there's nothing else, I have to go." "Wait," Serafina reached out and blocked my path. They were both tall, and standing in front of me together, they were like an imposing wall trapping me. "It was Maya who took you, right?" Serafina sneered. "That old fox. She always seems so quiet, but I didn't expect her to play dirtier than anyone." Isabel jumped in. "I heard you and Maya aren't actually together. Let's be honest, Leo, we're both interested in you. Why don't you consider one of us?" I was surprised by their bluntness. "Are you two suggesting you be my girlfriends at the same time? In that case, who's the main one and who's the side piece?" Serafina and Isabel were stunned by my words. They looked at each other, and a sudden hostility sparked between them. "I'm not into that," Serafina said, glaring at Isabel. "Me neither. I'm not used to sharing a man," Isabel retorted. I feigned distress. "Well, that's a tough one. You're both so wonderful I can't possibly choose." Serafina leaned closer. "Choose me. I can sing for you. No, I'll write songs just for you. If you want to go public, I guess I could agree to it." Isabel pushed her aside. "Get out of here. Leo, pick me instead. If you're with me, you can quit this dead-end job. I'll introduce you to the international art world." I smiled faintly. "All right, you two can fight it out. I'll choose whoever's left standing." Both of their faces changed, their expressions hardening. "Are you messing with us?" Serafina demanded. I dropped the act. "You're just now figuring that out? I thought you two were smart. You should have known from the moment you were throwing away photos and sending secret love letters." The accusation hit its mark. Serafina whirled on Isabel. "Love letters? Ava, you were sending him love letters behind my back?" Isabel shot back. "And you, Serafina, when you threw away the photo, you only tore off Clara's half, didn't you?" They were best friends, so of course they knew each other's secrets well. After arguing for a bit, they finally turned their attention back to me. "You don't like either of us?" one of them asked, bewildered. My voice was flat. "Not only do I not like you, I actually find you pretty repulsive." Their jaws dropped. "Why?" the two socialites asked in unison, unable to believe it. "Because you don't respect me," I said, looking up, my expression blank as I stared at them. Your so-called affection was just you bad-mouthing me in front of Clara to manipulate her. By the way, when we confronted each other before, why didn't either of you have the guts to admit you liked me? One of you said I didn't deserve Clara. The other said you were just testing me for Clara. Are your feelings that shameful that you have to hide them behind such pathetic excuses? I let out a small, mocking laugh. You couldn't even admit it. You're not even as brave as Clara. Both of them looked awful, their faces pale. Then their eyes widened as they looked at something behind me. I turned around and saw Clara, who I hadn't seen in a long, long time. It was a surprise to see her again in a place like this. It had only been half a month, but Clara had lost a lot of weight, and her face looked worn out and tired. It was clear the three of them hadn't come together. Apparently, after the wedding, their group of 4 had a major falling out. Clara no longer associated with any of them, and neither did Maya. Clara walked over and stood in front of me, shielding me from them. Leave Leo alone. Stop bothering him. Serafina sneered. In what capacity are you protecting him now? His ex-fiancée? Clara's voice was firm. I'll say it again. Stop bothering him. Isabel laughed, a harsh sound. Clara, who do you think you are? Back then, all it took was a little prodding from us, and you believed every word we said. The person who wronged Leo the most is you. Clara's body was trembling slightly. I know. I never intended to. Deny my mistakes, and I don't expect Leo to forgive me. But you two, you're not allowed to bother him either. Now that he's gone, you suddenly know how to care? Where were you before? Get out. Isabel folded her arms. You have no right to tell us what to do. Leo, come over to our side. Get out! Clara raised her voice, drawing the attention of other diners. If you keep bothering him, I don't mind calling everyone here to watch this little drama unfold. Serafina looked horrified. Are you crazy? Both she and Isabel were well-known public figures. The last thing they wanted was to be the center of a public scene. If you call everyone over, aren't you afraid of becoming an even bigger joke? Isabel hissed. Clara stood her ground. I'm not afraid of anything. As long as Leo doesn't want to see you, I'll help him. Her back was turned to me, but she radiated a sense of lonely, fierce determination. As more people started to gather, Serafina and Isabel had to cut their losses, covering their faces and quickly leaving the restaurant. Okay, they're gone, Clara said, her voice dropping back to its normal volume. You can go eat in peace now. She spoke just like she used to, her tone gentle, as if she were comforting me. But she never once dared to meet my eyes. Before I could leave, however, Clara's parents, who were there for a family dinner, came out of their private room after hearing the commotion. They saw me immediately, and the anger from the runaway wedding flared up in their minds. Clara's mom refused to let me go, insisting we had to talk it out. I was dragged into their private room, where Clara's entire extended family was present, all of them staring daggers at me. Leo, we've been pretty good to you, haven't we? Her father began. Even though your family's situation is average, we've never looked down on you. Her parents had said this to me countless times before. I had known for a long time that the moment they uttered those words, they were already looking down on me. Clara's mom continued her tirade. How could you be so irresponsible, just running away from the wedding like that? And who was that person who crashed it? Your ex-girlfriend? Or someone you cheated on my daughter with while you were dating? My daughter is rich and beautiful. How could you not be satisfied? With your background, how could you possibly find anyone better? Their accusations were like cannonballs, relentless and destructive. Are all parents this hypocritical? The cruel words Clara had said at the engagement party, in their eyes, that was a genuine expression of her feelings. a sign that their precious daughter had been wronged by me. But me running away from my own wedding? That was irresponsible. That was cheating. Thinking about it, I couldn't help but laugh. "You're laughing! What's so funny?" her mother shrieked. "Oh my, this young man is really something else. The nerve on him!" Clara tried to intervene. "Mom, stop it! No, I won't! I have to find out today when he started cheating on you." Leo didn't cheat. He didn't cheat and he ran off with another woman. He ruined the wedding. He's brought shame on our entire family. It was then that Clara suddenly screamed, startling everyone in the room. "It wasn't him, it was me. I'm the one who wronged Leo. I didn't want to get married. I cheated, so I let Leo do it. There's no other woman. The person who crashed the wedding was an actress I hired for Leo to give him a way out." Her parents stared at her, aghast. "Are you out of your mind?" Clara continued, her voice shaking, but resolute. "I didn't give Leo enough respect at the engagement party. It's only right that he got to reclaim some of it at the wedding. Stop asking. If you still won't let him go," Clara paused, then said with an extreme, chilling calm, "then I'll go become a nun tomorrow." The threat landed like a bomb. "Oh, is it really that serious? We were just going to ask him a few questions." Clara was their only child. When she said she was going to renounce the world, everyone's face changed. They were all in a panic. That's how I finally managed to get away. When Clara walked me out, she was filled with guilt. "I'm sorry for interrupting your dinner." I shook my head. "It's fine. I was going to find a different place anyway. This restaurant and I might not be a good match." Clara gave a bitter, fleeting smile. She walked me all the way to the front door of the restaurant. Finally, she looked up at me, her eyes filled with so many unspoken emotions. They were red and swollen. I couldn't help but ask for confirmation of a suspicion that had been growing in my mind. "Clara, do you know everything?" Her lips trembled, and her voice was barely a whisper. I asked, "What did you say?" "I couldn't hear you," I prompted. "Nothing," she said quickly, waving at me. "Go get something to eat. Don't go hungry." I just said, "Oh." I didn't say goodbye. I just turned and walked away without looking back. I walked for a long, long time, lost in thought. So long that my friend, who I eventually met up with, finally asked, "Leo, why are you so quiet? Are you thinking about getting back together with her?" That's when I snapped out of it. Getting back together was impossible. But I had just heard the words Clara didn't dare to say out loud. She had whispered, so faintly I almost missed it. "If being with me will make you unhappy, then I'm willing to let you go." I thought back to the original plot of the book from my dream. After marrying Clara, I was perpetually depressed. I ended up developing a serious heart condition and died before I turned 30. Clara, she might really know something. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. A gust of wind blew past, scattering the past like dead leaves. It felt like a gentle, final farewell. I had never felt so light, so free. Actually, right after I ran from the wedding, the first thing I did was schedule a full physical for myself. All my levels were normal. From now on, I planned to get my heart checked every year. The following days were busy with work, and my life was full and satisfying. That absurd, drama-filled wedding gradually faded from people's minds. Half a year went by. My health remained excellent. Just when everything had settled into a quiet, comfortable rhythm, I met someone. Julian. According to the original plot of the dream, I would have met him after the wedding. After marrying Clara, I would have given up my job. In our first meeting, I would have approached Julian as Clara's bitter, insecure husband, threatening and bribing him to stay away from her. But not now. We were at a major industry summit. According to the schedule, he was supposed to go on stage to speak soon. But at that moment, Julian's face was pale, and he looked completely flustered. He had just spilled a large amount of dark coffee all over his crisp white shirt. There was a noticeable ugly brown stain right on his chest. A colleague whispered to him, "Julian, did you bring a spare shirt?" "No, I never thought I'd be this clumsy," he groaned. "Maybe if I take my jacket off?" "What are we going to do? This conference is being live-streamed worldwide." Julian looked on the verge of tears. "Just cancel my segment. I can't go on stage. I can't embarrass the company." His colleague sighed. "And you came back to the country just for this meeting? I guess there's no other choice." Their whispered, panicked conversation reached my ears. In the original story, Julian had indeed returned to the country for this important meeting. The first time we met, I was the one who sought him out with malicious intent. So this time, I thought, let me be the one to take the initiative again. I stood up and walked toward him. "I have a spare shirt in my car. Do you want to wear it?" Julian looked up at me, his eyes lighting up with relief and gratitude. After the conference ended, Maya was waiting for me at the entrance. We were friends now. I had told her before that I wasn't looking for a relationship at the moment. Maybe it was because I wanted to enjoy this newfound freedom for a while longer. Maybe it was because she was, after all, once Clara's best friend. For many reasons, we were at a standstill, and Maya said she understood. She often had to go abroad for long periods of training and competitions. Until they could solve the long-distance problem, she didn't want to hold me back either. She had come to see me today, probably with something important to say. Just as we were about to get in her car, someone called out from behind me, "Wait a minute!" It was Julian. He was out of breath from chasing after me. Maya saw him and frowned, instinctively thinking he was about to cause trouble. But Julian didn't even seem to notice her. He was focused entirely on me. "Sir, thank you so much for lending me the shirt. Could I get your number? I'll have it professionally cleaned and return it to you personally. And then I'd like to treat you to dinner to show my thanks." "Oh, sure," I said, and we exchanged numbers. Julian added me as a contact. "May I ask your name?" I smiled. "Leo Diaz." He paused for a couple of seconds, his expression thoughtful. Then he looked up again. "Are you Clara's?" "That's me," I confirmed. Maya instinctively reached out, as if about to shield me from a blow. But to our surprise, Julian just broke into a broad, genuine smile. "So it's you. No wonder Clara likes you. You're handsome and a good person. If I were a girl, I'd be head over heels for you too." Then his eyes landed on Maya. "Hey, Maya, what are you doing here?" Julian's gaze was clear, without a trace of malice or calculation. No wonder he was the male lead of the original story. After saying goodbye to Julian, Maya and I went to a quiet restaurant. She had come to say goodbye to me today. "I'm leaving for training tomorrow," she said. "I'll be abroad for 6 months this time." I nodded. "Okay, good luck with your competitions." She looked down at her plate, then back at me. "Leo, do you want to come see me race?" I looked up and met her somewhat nervous gaze. She continued quickly. "When the tickets go on sale, I'll mail you a few. If you have time, come watch. If not, it's okay. I know you're busy too." I smiled. "Don't mail them to me." Maya looked a little disappointed. She couldn't remember how many times she had taken the initiative with me, only to be gently turned down. I clarified. "What I mean is, you can give me the tickets in person." Her eyes widened. "What?" I explained. "Your next race is in the UK, right?" "Yes, she said, still confused. I happen to have a project in the UK starting next month. The duration is uncertain, but it's at least 6 months. You can just give me the tickets directly then. Save on postage. Maya stared at me for a couple of seconds before it finally clicked. Her face broke into a radiant, happy smile. Before she could even finish being happy, I pulled a simple red string bracelet out of my bag. I got this for you at a temple. I hope you come back safe from every race. Maya took the red string and looked at it for a long, long time. Much later, when Maya Vance became the undisputed champion of Asian auto racing, a legend in her own right, she always wore a simple little red string on her left wrist. She never took it off. Epilogue. Clara's perspective. The night before the wedding, I had a strange dream. I dreamed I was the female protagonist in a book, but the male lead wasn't Leo. At our wedding, someone came to crash it, but in the dream, Leo didn't go with them. He chose me, firmly and without hesitation. But it was so strange. The me in the dream responded to his loyalty with only suspicion and blame. Was that right? Although the wedding went on as planned, the crashing incident became a thorn in my side. I suspected Leo had staged it himself. I also thought he had deliberately hired an actress to play the part. It never once occurred to me that my Leo was a brilliant, wonderful person in his own right, and that someone else would love him was the most normal thing in the world. After the wedding, our marriage fell apart. Compounded by the return of my first love, Julian, Leo eventually fell ill and died. The day he died, the me in the dream was actually at the park with Julian. The call from the hospital was impatiently hung up on by me. I watched it all happen, a helpless observer in my own mind, feeling like I was going insane. I knelt on the ground of the dreamscape, begging the dream version of myself, go to him. Just go see him one last time, please. But I screamed until my voice was hoarse, and no one saw me, no one heard me. I woke up terrified. My pillow was soaked with sweat, and my body was shaking uncontrollably. I didn't understand. A life was fading away right before her eyes, so why was the dream version of me so indifferent, so cruel? And this was someone she had lived with day in and day out. All for a so-called love? She could disregard a human life for that? How did I become that kind of person? Fear swallowed me whole. I was terrified of becoming that person in the future. And I was terrified of Leo dying. I was suddenly filled with an overwhelming regret. I never should have listened to Serafina and the others, and tried to put Leo in his place. The groom's party would be here in 2 hours to pick me up. I picked up my phone and searched for the causes of heart disease. The web page clearly stated that chronic emotional factors, such as persistent anger, sadness, and stress, could easily trigger serious heart problems. I abruptly threw my phone on the floor. I couldn't look anymore. In the dream, the person who had killed Leo. It was me, wasn't it? I stayed awake until 5 in the morning, just as the sky was beginning to brighten. I finally calmed down and went through the motions of getting ready for my wedding. It's okay, I told myself. There's still time to fix everything. Leo won't go with the person who crashes the wedding. And as for me, I just have to treat him well from now on. I had thought it all through, but the one thing I didn't anticipate was that this time, Leo would make a completely different choice than he did in the dream. Maya appeared. Leo let her take his hand and didn't push her away. I panicked. Why was this different from the dream? Where did it all go wrong? Later, I thought that Leo probably only hesitated for a few seconds, But in that moment, it felt longer than a lifetime. It was long enough for me to start trembling and beg him to stay. But Leo didn't look at me. He started to run, the tails of his suit jacket flying in the wind behind him. Leo once told me that he loved nothing more than riding his motorcycle freely on an open road. And today, on our wedding day, he had a motorcycle ready and waiting. My Leo. Breaking free from his restraints, running toward a world of bright, shining freedom. I didn't chase after him right away, because I was stunned. The image of the sick, gaunt Leo from my dream was still fresh in my mind. It was such a stark, painful contrast to the vibrant, alive man in front of me now. In that moment, I had a sudden, clear realization. He was meant to be like this, free and carefree and happy. Later, at my family's urging, I did chase after him, but all I saw were his and Maya's backs as they disappeared down the road. Right, Maya, I knew the person crashing the wedding was her. Because in the dream, after the wedding, Maya had apologized to me, admitting her mistake, afraid that I would misunderstand Leo. But I didn't believe her. Or maybe I did believe her, but at home I still needed a reason to blame Leo, to hold something over him. What was I even blaming him for? Standing on the side of the road, listening to the commotion of the guests around me, I suddenly understood. It was because Leo was too good. He could even tolerate my rude, humiliating outburst at our engagement party. It made me seem so despicable in comparison. I wasn't surprised that Maya liked him. In fact, long before Serafina and Isabel started stirring up trouble between us, Maya had tried to stop me. She had asked, "Do you really have to treat Leo like this?" I had said, "What?" She pressed, "You're going to be husband and wife, a family." "So what?" I had retorted. "Don't let other people ruin your life together. Be good to him." I had laughed out loud at her earnestness. "Girl, you're worrying a little too much." Maya had lunged forward and slapped me across the face. The fight came out of nowhere. Afterward, she explained that she had been drinking and didn't like my tone, so she acted impulsively. But after having that dream, I finally understood everything. Maya's restraint and tolerance were the last shreds of respect she was giving me as a friend. The night Leo ran from the wedding, I sat alone in our new home all night, surrounded by wedding gifts. Memories of our time together flooded my mind. How could I have forgotten? The first time I saw Leo, I was so captivated by his brilliant, easy smile that I couldn't breathe. I chased him relentlessly, using all the cheesy moves I used to look down on. I liked him, and it never had anything to do with Julian. He did look a little like Julian when he was angry, but I fell in love with him because of his smile. The part of him that was truly and uniquely Leo was what I fell for at first, sight. But for the past 2 years, Serafina and Isabel had been constantly in my ear, brainwashing me, telling me I was just using Leo as a substitute for my first love. After hearing it for so long, I almost started to believe it myself. Leo must have believed it too. The disappointment had piled up day after day, and that's why he chose to leave. That's fine. Being with me would make him sick. I would rather live with this guilt and pain forever than see him get that disease again. Sometimes I go to see Leo, secretly. I just drive to the gate of his apartment complex and then leave. As long as I see that he's doing well, that his car is there, that his lights are on, I feel at ease. A year later, I saw Julian. We stood a few feet apart, politely catching up. To be honest, I couldn't face him. Just thinking about how the dream version of me repeatedly hurt Leo because of Julian made it impossible for me to interact with him naturally, let alone get close. Julian, for his part, didn't seem to have any intention of getting closer to me either. His world revolved around his work now. As we were wrapping up our conversation, Julian suddenly said, "I met Leo Diaz." I froze. "He's my guardian angel," Julian continued. "Without his help that day, I would never have been able to give that presentation, and I wouldn't be where I am today." I didn't understand the details, but from his expression, I could tell he genuinely liked and admired Leo. Julian turned to me and smiled, a kind, sad smile. "Clara, you have great taste. It's a shame you don't have that kind of luck." I was silent for a long time. "Yeah," I finally whispered. "I don't have that kind of luck." That was the last thing we ever said to each other. After that, Julian and I went our separate ways, our paths never crossing again. Another year passed. Everyone around me had changed. Isabel's family went bankrupt, and Serafina was caught in a career-ending scandal, but none of that had anything to do with me. My family's business was struggling too. Some of our restaurants couldn't stay afloat and had to close. One day, I was walking down the street when the giant screen on a building switched to a live broadcast of a post-race celebration. Maya Vance, my former best friend. In a sport dominated by men, she had left everyone in the dust. She had just achieved her personal best, a new record. The entire stadium was on its feet, cheering for her. When the camera panned over the audience, my breath caught in my throat. Leo. He was there, in the crowd, still just as radiant as the day I first saw him. Maya got out of her car and ran past the swarm of reporters and officials straight to him. In that moment, all the cameras in the world were on them. He hugged her, lifting her off the ground in a triumphant spin. I knew then. The light that had once shone on me was gone forever, and it was now shining, brighter than ever, on them.